back on Get Up as our fantasy football marathon continues all day. Hey guys, check this out. Almost 1 million teams have been drafted with ESPN Fantasy Football so far. And you can sign up now at ESPN.com/FFL or download the ESPN Fantasy app. Let's get back to our crew with a QB edition of More or Less. And we're going to start in Baltimore, so you know we got to go to Neek. Neek, Lamar Jackson, 5.5 rushing TDs, more or less?
Yeah, I think he has less. Like, he hasn't had more than 5 rushing touchdowns in the past 3 seasons, and they're adding Derrick Henry in order to take some of those short yardage and goal line carries away from him. So I think Lamar will have another great season, but he won't make it into the end zone as a rusher nearly as much as he did early in his career. When 7's the most he's had, I don't think he gets up close to that number again.
Tim, Jalen Hurts, 31 total TDs. That's pass and rush, more or less?
I'm going more here, RC, because of the combination and then because of what I think Kellen Moore is going to mean for the passing game. I think he's going to do a good job helping Jalen Hurts develop more as a passer. And then the running is something I think that Kellen Moore ends up adopting. And Jalen Hurts has always been good at that. Like, doesn't matter if he's at Alabama, Oklahoma, or with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm going more on 31.5 total.
Jeff, Dak Prescott, 29.5 passing TDs, more or less?
So I'm going to say more, obviously under the caveat that CeeDee Lamb is playing at wide receiver, but he had 36 this last season, 37 in 2021. I think sometimes lost in all of the drama and the narratives that exist with the Cowboys, we sometimes forget how productive Dak Prescott often is. Sometimes maybe forget that he was really an MVP leader at one point this past season. As long as CeeDee Lamb is on the field, I do believe he will have more than 29.5 touchdowns.
Well, if he's going to have more than that, then CeeDee Lamb does have to be on the field. Shannon Sharp was on First Take yesterday talking about Jerry Jones. And man, he ain't hold back on what he had to say.
For Jerry to try to downplay, we don't need CeeDee out here risking it. Really? And you expect people to believe that? No, that's not the case. You think that everybody wants to play for the Cowboys. You think everybody's going to give you a hometown discount. I don't give a damn about your cap. The only cap I care about is the cap that's on my head that's going to have dollar signs, because I'm about to get a bunch of it out of you, Jerry Jones. If I'm CeeDee Lamb, I'm towing the line. I'm not giving you no discount. I want a boatload of money up front. You're not going to backload it and push it until later years, kick the can down the road. I want my money.
Jeff, why does a deal that feels like it should be easy to me seem so different from these other wide receiver situations?
Well, quite honestly, I don't have the answer for you because it does feel like this should be done. I'll only point this out when it comes to the leverage. And this is maybe where we can get into the fact that both sides feel like they have leverage right now. The Cowboys feel like every minute that they get toward week 1 is a minute closer to getting this deal done because CeeDee Lamb will recognize he's got to get his game checks, and that's when he's going to have to really start facing those stiff penalties. Forget the fines that he's incurring right now. Let's talk about that week 1 game check. CeeDee Lamb's looking at it saying, though, yeah, your Super Bowl aspirations are toast if I'm not on the field. So sometimes the problem with these negotiations are if that leverage continues to just feel dead even, 50-50 down the middle, that's when nobody blinks. That's what it feels like right now with CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys. So I'm still just waiting. Who's going to blink first?
Nick, when you hear some of Jerry Jones's statements, early on in training camp saying that Dak's practicing, he's different from other guys, also saying I'm in no rush to get CeeDee's deal done, and now he's like, hey, we don't want him out here getting hurt anyway. How has the Dallas Cowboys' approach to this situation played into this standoff?
It doesn't make sense because nobody can name me a time when they've won a negotiation standoff. They lose them all, and you end up paying everybody all the money that they want eventually. All they do is fuel our programs through the offseason. So I appreciate that Jerry has been such a bad contract negotiator with his players because it gives us something to talk about. But the bottom line is CeeDee going to get top of the league receiver money. Whether it's now or later, he's going to get it because he's a top-of-the-league receiver. Dak, the same thing. It's going to happen. The price just keeps going up. So while I understand why Jeff is saying that the leverage changes a little bit, it doesn't change that much as long as CeeDee remains steadfast and knows that he is going to get how much he deserves. No matter what it is, he's going to get it. So he just has to be patient.
And the reality is, like, he's the owner of the football team. If he wants to get a deal done with his number one wide receiver, he can get it done. And look, I just feel like, and I think this is part of what Nick is saying in terms of negotiations, like, they've played hardball with guys in the past. Guys have stared them down, and the players have won in some of these negotiations. Like, Dak Prescott, counts more against the salary cap this year than the 4 highest paid Philadelphia Eagles players this year. Like, Jerry Jones has been cheap negotiating with some of his own players. And if it were the Cincinnati Bengals or the Arizona Cardinals, everybody would be talking about how cheap the organization is. But for whatever reason, get a star in your helmet, and you're basically trying to get a guy to give you a hometown discount, and we're like, oh, it's just the owner, negotiating, playing hardball. No, like, honestly, he's being cheap, and because of it, his team suffered.
But when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, you're talking about a team that's won 12 games in the last 3 years. And even in saying that they're cheap and not repaying their guys or negotiating contracts that gets their guys in camps, they've been able to be competitive. It doesn't feel like this team is fighting to be competitive. And to me, that's the biggest issue. And that's more reality to me than fantasy.